Okay, we've got a few items here and several people in the room, but in order to get the treasurer office back functioning again, full strength, we'll go ahead and take their item first.
Okay, so what I have to discuss is the lighting districts that the county owns. The poles for each one of those lighting districts. There's an agreement of the full maintenance with Rocky Mountain Power to do the maintenance of each one of those poles. Which means, which I pulled the agreement that they have. And it specifies on here what that agreement is supposed to take care of. We received an invoice from Road and Bridge that Rocky Mountain Power has submitted to them for a pole in Lighting District 28. I don't know why this is 38,
So
but it
it's
is
an old lighting district that's been in place for quite a while.
correct.
It's an old pole and so
So the invoice that they have sent over or work agreement estimate is priced at $5,962. We are keeping a base amount of $200 per pole. That's what was set many years ago. This is not near enough money to take care of that pole replacement
The base amount per pole. Or $200.
per pole, $200 per pole.
so if there's 4 poles in there, it's $800 a
So
day.
is it a cumulative base?
That's,
And
I just keep the base always at that amount.
Is that
Yeah, because
accumulated though? Is there a pool of that money then somewhere for all the poles?
Yeah, well, it's in the lighting districts, in each one of its funds, yeah.
So in each
Each one
fund, they'll
of
have,
each one of the funds, if I remember, a part of the charge goes back in for future pole replacement.
so I don't know what
So.
amount is,
No.
how's that set up, so.
Once it's built up to $200 per pole, that's all there is. It just stays there. And then the charges from month to month are just for the electricity.
But I'm still confused. So how many poles are in a lighting district? I know
In this
there,
specific
but
lighting district, there are 3. So we have a
So
base,
there's
we only have $600. So when I spoke with Rocky Mountain Power yesterday, they told me it's a minimum of $2,500 per pole
For them to
for
replace it,
them to replace
and
it,
that doesn't
That
include
doesn't
the
include-
wiring
correct?
and
Which-
the other electrical equipment.
That is supposed to be part of this agreement, though, that I was directed to, that
Wiring
says
on
specifically what the
pole.
full maintenance
Yeah,
is.
the pole itself, but not getting to the pole.
So in this case, this particular pole, they had to bore under the street to, I guess, place the wire.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I think so.
And so they're saying it's 135 feet of that underground wire. And then 2-inch PVC service riser, and that's what's costing that amount of money.
What's the life expectancy of a pole? How often
This is the first one that,
should we expect to?
that I have seen. There was one other before this.
Yeah,
So in the past, I spoke with Kathy Braybeck at the Rocky Mountain Power. She goes, in the past, to them, they never submitted this to their service people because of what was in this agreement for the full maintenance. They just would get it done and get it replaced.
part of full maintenance.
through the
Mhm.
maintenance plan.
Correct.
So why are they saying it's not now?
There, somebody in Salt Lake is telling them, no, that is not.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because I thought I remembered a certain amount each month going back in. But I don't know if maintenance includes pole replacement. Have we ever had to replace any poles?
not that we are aware of.
Because this lighting district was probably 40, 50 years ago.
It's a long time ago. I
Mm.
don't know how long, but it's a long time ago.
So what's the
Didn't you
corrective
say-
action we need here then? I mean, what?
Well, first, I think that we need to change that base amount that we're retaining for each one of those lighting districts. That we as the county are responsible for the replacement of the pole.
Where does it come from?
So that's, it gets billed out with the property taxes. It's part of the annual billing that we do.
Okay, but that's assuming somebody in Salt Lake has changed it, and it can't be changed. Back.
Right, and that was a discussion that
Probably need to talk to
that,
him first and make sure that that's not included in the
Years.
maintenance and,
Have a record of this ever happening?
yeah.
When did it change from
Right.
complete maintenance to?
Cause I'm sure there's been other poles replaced in 50 years or since this agreement's been in place.
What did you say about the maintenance going off on some, or, they?
so what they told me also is that they only have so many luminaire lights left. And once those are done, then they're turning that entire full maintenance over to the county. They will no longer,
They decide to do that.
that's what Kathy was telling me. So maybe that's something that you need to discuss with Rocky Mountain Power about,
Is there an end clause or an out on the maintenance agreement that we have?
I don't know, but they should. She just directed me to where to get this information, so that's why I pulled it. Cause we have two different types of lighting districts. We have one that said, the full maintenance, and then we have the ones that are, all the new ones that are being put in, it all belongs to Rocky Mountain Power.
Everything
That's
new
been-
is going
yeah.
into Rocky Mountain, it's under Rocky Mountain.
Well,
Power.
that's Rocky Mountain Power Roll,
Right, correct.
Oh, yeah,
so they own it. And so that's been a change a few years ago
It
where
is.
they own all of it.
Right.
Some of these older ones, I wasn't aware that we were.
I think it started in lighting district 85-ish is when
They own
they own those and we own everything prior to that.
100 and,
129, 140.
yeah. Got a lot of money.
29 to 140.
poles that we own,
No.
Lighting districts.
lighting districts on it.
And David Romer has just provided Scott Hall with a bunch more to recreate,
40.
but those are the ones
Yeah.
created, so.
You might wanna get this to Scott, and have him take a look, cause, this.
Scott actually
monthly
stopped in our
maintenance is only
office yesterday
applicable for existing
and I had him look at it.
Monthly maintenance
He
service
didn't have a
agreements
comment on it.
in effect prior to June 29th of 2007.
Well, why don't you make sure to leave a copy,
I'll just leave both of these.
leave
here.
this with us.
This is the other, so this just tells us what the rate that we're paying for the power rate.
Okay,
Is the ones that Rocky Mountain owns, we pay a higher rate for the power. The ones that we own, we pay a lower.
Okay.
So,
leave it with us.
okay,
Roger, do you want to talk with Dan? Okay,
so I guess at that point, then you can decide if we're going to increase the base that we're retaining for each one of those power poles.
Yeah, but that would happen when you created the library doors,
lighting.
lighting district. That base is set.
No,
Well, no, it's
No.
not,
it isn't.
not with the creation of the lighting
It's
district.
built out at a certain amount until you've got the base. I think.
No.
How do you get the base?
So if you're levying
So-
the same amount every year for the lighting district, where does it go
I don't
after
levy
you
the
get
same amount for the
$200?
lighting districts. It's based on whatever I get from accounting will provide me with everything that we've expended for that specific lighting district. I then divide that out amongst all the properties within that lighting district,
Okay.
and that's how we get
That's what I'm saying.
reimbursed.
You need to increase.
Right.
The accounting part of that,
Right,
so that it builds a bigger base.
right.
Is
And
that
that's
by a
gonna-
resolution then, or?
I don't know. We need to talk to him.
Okay.
Responsible.
Okay,
Yeah, that was the question I was trying to get to, is how does that base come about?
Right,
Apparently you're dividing it out and billing it to everybody, so it's kind of like an insurance policy.
right.
It's
Mhm.
The risks are spread.
Well, it's for every address within that lighting district.
Right, it's
Right.
for each
So
one
once
of
you
the
get that
properties.
$300 base,
Well, for
It's
each
for each
individual
parcel.
lighting district, there's a number of addresses, so
Okay, so you
each of those are.
Okay, so that clarifies, because you said we're billing to all.
All the parcels within
in
that lighting,
district,
correct.
Not all lighting districts.
Well, we do it for each lighting district.
I know.
Okay.
But
I guess I'm not.
The amount is figured just on that.
That
For
specific.
that lighting district.
Yes.
So
Because if you
each
do it for
lighting
all,
district is
that's
a different.
No, it's not for all. No, so we have a base for each one of those specific lighting districts. And then it's divided amongst all the parcels within that specific lighting district.
So you wouldn't necessarily have to give each light pole a $2,500 base necessarily, but I mean, I guess you gotta figure out what.
But like on this one, if you're gonna raise the base, you'd have to bill it out over the three different lights for so much.
Yeah, for a certain period of
And
time.
you'll
Right,
probably
and I
wanna
would do
have
it
enough
over
to
a
replace
term.
That light pole.
Yeah.
If it needs it. So, and each light pole is a minimum of $2,500.
so when we lose one in a vehicle accident, who pays to replace
That
that?
person's insurance, I'm assuming.
Right, assuming they have insurance and
Right.
assuming all of that, and if they don't, then
Mhm. I don't know. That's a question. for-
Rocking power.
I have no idea when we turn it over, tort claims over to ICRIM, what happens there, I don't know.
well, leave it with us. Let us do some
So
homework.
was this an accident that caused this
sorry, I shouldn't.
or
have let
just
it go on with that.
deterioration
No.
of the,
This particular one, I don't think it was an accident. I think the wires just over time degraded and it's non-functional.
Let's have it on our agenda next week. And we'll take care of it then.
We'll try to maybe invite Tim.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Now, and that's to require they use 100-year wire instead of 50-year wire.
maybe.
Okay,
And
let's,
they're doing
That's
LED
it.
lights now,
Yeah.
that they didn't before, so.
okay,
The other thing is that City of Amman actually creates their own lighting districts.
Yeah.
They don't use the attorney to do that,
mm. Okay,
just a thought, so,
all right, thank
Consider
you.
if we wanted to do that, so for saying, Rochelle.
Yeah. since we have so many of them anyway. All right, I think
Okay.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
Ron, did you have any?
They, whoever, somebody has got working on it. But since-
Yeah.
Change.
All right, Lance, you wanna go?
So this is Jeremy, he's with a company called Atmos. He has a presentation about alternative daily cover at the Peterson landfill that we'd like to discuss with you.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. My name's Jeremy Crocius. Just to give you a quick background of who I am, where I come from. Prior, Air Force, 20 years, and about the past couple years, I am the business development manager for the Rocky Mountain region for Atmos. So just wanted to give you kind of the high level cliff notes of using foam as an alternative daily cover. Atmos has been in business through a couple different companies since the mid 1990s. They primarily started in the mining industry using foam for dust suppression. Our main areas of business are using foam as an alternate daily cover, treating leachate for reuse capabilities at the landfills for water.
Jeremy,
Yeah,
do you understand what daily cover means? And so every day, John, if you don't understand, we have to cover over the landfill, what garbage goes into that landfill every day. Right now, we use dirt to do it and a fair amount of dirt to do it. So this is using foam instead of the dirt.
I might ask a question, how much?
Six.
Yeah,
It has to
6
go in
inches.
six, but the variation in the surface, get it in a foot deep in some spots and some
Okay.
areas, and so. And he has a breakdown sheet in his presentation that shows, what it costs us basically to put down a foot of soil over an area.
Yeah, no, good. The other thing we do is odor control through misting systems at transfer stations and the exterior parts of the landfill. So that's kind of our bread and butter. We're in, let's see, 22 states where we're either doing pilot trials or it's approved for operational use. About 35 different accounts throughout the US. Started out in the Northeast, spread to the Southeast, it's in the Midwest, and we're now starting to expand out here in the West. So just to give you a quick overview of what the foam is, it's a non-hardening aqueous-based bioprotein foam. It's like shaving cream, the consistency of it. And it's only about 2% water by volume. And that liquid barrier in the foam creates a seal for odors, for gas emissions. And the biggest where it really sets itself apart from using soil and tarps is that it uses zero airspace.
That's a big deal.
That's a huge deal. In Ada County, back in 2014, they were estimated, they had about 100 years of landfill life expectancy because of population growth and quite frankly, kind of mismanagement of the landfill. That's gone down to 47 years. So we got approved to do a long pilot study there, and they are approved by the DEQ with conditional approval to use foam, and we're waiting on that analysis, but so far it's looking good. With the Peterson landfill, our estimates on airspace savings, it's a really complicated math problem, lots of analysis, but it's anywhere from 10 to 30% savings on your airspace in terms of the longevity of the landfill. So the Peterson Hill landfill, correct me if I'm wrong, had about 92 years of life expectancy as of most recent.
When it started, yeah.
When it started. So if we could extend that anywhere from 9 years to 27 years, that translates to millions of dollars in cost savings.
How would it work at Hatch?
What's that?
How would it work at Hatch?
We don't do cover at Hatch other than fire break.
Okay.
And so we put soil in for the fire break part of that, and it needs to be pretty substantial. And then, of course, we have a closure plan where we have to close it, so, yeah.
That's D&D, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So to kind of put this in perspective real quick, we use 1:5 ratio dirt to trash. So if you took that one out, each had, so when we do an annual tier 1 report, we use one part to 5 of trash. So if we could extend our landfill
By 20%.
yeah, so our landfill cost us $9 million for this last sale. It's expected to last between 7 and 9 years. So if we could get an extra 1.5 years out of that, it cost $9 million to build it. If we could get another 1.5 years, we could save $1.5 million. Or we would save, or in airspace, we would gain that $1.5 million.
Postpone
Yeah, I mean, it would go another couple of years, which would save us $1.5 million. Now, this obviously is not free, but just to kind of put that in perspective, I mean, if we could get rid of that dirt. Now in Boise, I was reading through their report in Boise, and they still make them put in an earth and fire break every once in a while, and that's part of their operations, and we'll have to do the same. But this stuff is for daily cover. Even if we used it 4 days out of the week and only had to put dirt on once a week, you're still at that same ratio.
But I'm assuming you're gonna have some numbers of what it costs. us
Yeah.
to-
Yes.
Yeah, further in there.
Yep. And just from the machines are new, so they have all the safety features that any modern day landfill equipment would expect to have. But what I want to kind of foot stomp on safety is that, and we'll show you in the cost analysis, But what Peterson Hill Landfill is doing right now takes about 4 pieces of equipment, 4 operators, to do daily cover in about 11 man hours. Our solution will take that down to 1 operator, 1 piece of machine, and, about 20 to 30 minutes, to cover. So, from a safety perspective, less operators, less movement of equipment, can deploy that equipment somewhere else for other projects that you can't get to. Just an overall closing operations, safety.
Give it or all that new equipment we buy, you'll give the lands.
No,
I mean, that.
I've got it all lined up there in case I need it. So I don't wanna be giving it that.
They'll bring it back.
What's that?
They'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Well,
for
I
sure.
guess I'll.
The foam's not marketed as a firefighting foam, however, it is fire suppressant, so many landfills use it in their fire operations plan. We have an account in the Virgin Islands, they had a smoldering fire. I think it was from a lithium battery, which is pretty common in landfills. They got to it, they were able to contain the fire until fire equipment got there, so from that perspective, it's also great. The birds don't like the foam. If they've never seen the foam, one bird will try to land on it. It's not a stable platform. They want nothing to do with it. So when the foam is on, the birds stay away. There's no pecking. There's no, penetrating the working face there. And it's also great for odor control. I know that's not a huge issue here. It is a huge issue in Ada County. But based on our testing in Ada County, the foam, we did an emission suppression test analysis on it. And the 48 to 72 hour point of the foam, it was able to suppress about 85 to 90% of gas emissions. So that just makes the landfill more efficient in decomposing the landfill.
What does that do to your, methane collection?
Well,
Kind of force it down in, and so you get more methane under.
it actually dissipates, and once you drive on it, it'll open up and it'll allow it to permeate through. Where the dirt, they're starting to find out some of these landfills, if you get your dirt in too tight, it actually holds the gas down. So then you end up with pockets of where you're not, and this will allow that to come back. So they're actually using the dirt, they're starting to figure out is causing some gas. If you have to go into the gas collection, it causes problems. So then you have to go to your hot spots and re-drill some of your wells because you've got that gas trapped and it's finding its way out the side of the landfill or something like that. So this stuff is good for that as well.
And I know one of the issues you guys were having there was with the dirt, a lot of the water and liquids leach out the sides. Because it just follows the path of least resistance. Not gonna have that problem with the foam as well. Let me get to any questions I can answer before I get into the numbers? So I will,
Real quick.
So what's your protein source?
I'm sorry.
Understand the operation.
What's your protein source and how long does the foam stay stable?
It's up to 72 hours and that's all dependent on the thickness. For typical normal day operations, you only gotta
Temperature variance?
works well in extreme cold and extreme hot. It works just as good.
I had that question, if there's, what'd you say, 20% liquid in it?
2 to 5%.
Only 2 to 5.
Yeah, it's
So
very-
freezing is not a problem.
40 mile
for
per hour, and it's
application.
minus 12.
Yeah, it does. We just did a successful trial in Cheyenne. With the same
Wind
equipment.
doesn't blow, China.
Wind doesn't blow it all right. We advertise it up to about 30 miles per hour, but realistically, it's much more. When I was there in Cheyenne, it was blowing 35 to 45 miles per hour. And it's with the equipment, it's all just about using the wind to your advantage. So, and there will be days when it's too windy or too rainy.
Or for application, yeah.
Yeah,
So what's your protein source?
it's basically a keratin is the source of the protein. So, and a bunch of other starches and mixes, but it's non-hazardous, biodegradable, no PFAS.
No toxicity to the birds
No,
that do land in it, okay?
yeah, they don't get anywhere near it, so.
It's not a cousin to A triple F or Ronaldo. military leftover
No.
that they can't use now.
no PFAS at all, so that's why it's not an approved firefighting.
Okay, go ahead and keep going through.
Yeah, let's see, let me jump over to the cost analysis.
Oh, well, we will need to wait for Roger before you. can-
Sure. Let's see. Yeah, so in the way, we have a turnkey solution where you're not purchasing equipment. We're supplying the equipment, the training, the preventative maintenance, the breakdowns, everything's on us. The whole solution is priced into the monthly purchase of the phone. So we find that most landfills like that, they're not inheriting a new piece of equipment that they have to maintain. We take care of it, in a turnkey solution, so.
How many landfills are you in?
Total
Yeah,
in
in Idaho.
We're Ada County though,
Okay,
first.
yeah.
Yep. Blair's been, following us around in our conferences here for a while. But yeah, Kootenai, yeah, that's, JP Phillips. They'll probably be our next one. Canyon County's interested. Southern Idaho Solid Waste Authority is also interested.
How long you been at Ada?
Atmos has been there since about late 2022. So,
It was set up as a pilot project through Ada County. And so DEQ bought off on the pilot project for this to try to see whether DEQ would continue to look at this as an approved alternative date cover in Idaho.
mhm.
And they're good, DEQ is good with this.
Oh, well, that's one of the main questions that we had for Jeremy, and the letters that we have, the information we have, it looks like DEQ has bought off on it in Ada County, so if DEQ is good with it in Ada, we would have to take some additional steps to make sure that our DEQ would be okay with it here. But before we went through that process, I wanted to make sure that the commissioners understood that this product is out there and what it benefits Bonneville County.
Let's get to the prices then.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's the next. bit.
That's the $1 million question, right? Okay, so.
It's not that much.
Not-
Over time, it will be more than that, but that's.
Yeah. So based on our assessment we did last fall, what it costs the Peterson Hill landfill to cover with soil and labor, equipment and fuel. Again, 4 machines, about 11 man hours. It costs about $580 a day in fuel at today's fuel prices. Labor $297, equipment $1,430. So you can see the breakdown of what the daily, total monthly and total annual cost for them to do daily cover operations. So let's
Dirt.
with dirt, yep.
This is our.
This is our, this is based off of.
They come and do an analysis.
Okay.
Yep. So we're taking that again, 4 pieces of equipment down to 1, 4 operators down to 1 operator, 11 man hours down to about,
An hour, 30.
probably 20 to 30 minutes once they get experienced. And this is what a total cost would be, so almost 50% reduction in total annual cost.
That's assuming you let the extra operators go. 'Cause I know him.
I knew that was.
Yeah, we're not naive to the fact that they just don't, evaporate,
Yeah.
so that's,
They
We
would.
still gotta have, what? No, we can. We still have to cover, and we still have to do final, and we still have to.
So you're not gonna have any offset in your plan to offset the savings in. So it's gonna cost us what we're spending now, you're just using it in other ways, and this would be an additional cost.
This won't be an additional cost because. Yeah, I don't know, I'd have to sit down and analyze that.
Because where would
Yes,
the
you
offset be if it's not an additional cost?
The labor cost itself would not be this great.
So
But I
show us
think
what the cost would be
the
without the
equipment
labor
cost-
reduction.
without the labor reduction, yeah, I could run that on a spreadsheet there. Fuel alone, $580 a day versus, 27 bucks a day. That's pretty substantial. And
Based on a 5-day operating week? Is that what it's based on?
yeah, it's based on, and then being closed about 5 days out of the year for holidays and unforeseen closures.
Right now, we're utilizing
Five more.
landfill people. We have one guy, one dirt guy that is kind of dedicated to that program. And,
What's that program?
the haul dirt. We're utilizing the other two guys off of the landfill crew, and then the landfill supervisor also fills in. So there's really only, I mean, yes, it takes 4 guys, but 2 of them are already dedicated landfill guys, and the other guy's this landfill supervisor.
Can you go back up to what our daily cost is now? I want to see how you're.
It's $141,000 in fuel savings a year. Just not to operate the 4 machines and only operate the 1 machine for 20 to 30 minutes, based off of the numbers that he has here. If you run that at 255 days a year.
Go back down.
Are those machines all ours or are any of those rentals or
No,
leases? That's all. The articulator. It says cat on the side is ours.
yeah.
We are leasing one of the excavators used to do the dirt right now, but well.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
on a lease to purchase.
So where are you getting the dirt? You're getting it from future. pits, right?
Overburden, yeah, it's overburden from pits that we have currently closed. So it's overburdened from cell 1 through, well, I guess probably not cell 1 because we've already covered cell 1 and
So
2.
what would happen with that overburden if we weren't utilizing?
Well,
it
that's
this
the
way?
other reason that we've started to really pay close attention to these new technologies is we're going to become dirt efficient in about 4 or 5 years because our landfill is starting to go down that ravine. And so as it goes, it starts to shallow up and the sides, we're not digging so deep into the ground, so we're not gonna have the overburden to do the finished work that, so we need to start saving.
Well,
then
we've
with the
looked at
last one we
hauling
have-
dirt. We've looked at hauling dirt from other locations up there and we have hauled some dirt up there.
And this last cell was supposed to, all that was supposed to be dirt, well, it all turned out to be great big rock and stuff. Now that even cost us more of our cover group now, so we do need to look at that, I mean. And Jeremy has a good product here, we went to southern Utah and watched them apply it. We were at the conference in Coeur d'Alene when they talked about it at the Kootenai County landfill. I know JP is super interested in it. Because they have a lot of leachate issues there and they're trying to mitigate those by different covers and cover types. And they do a lot of
This help
collection there.
leachate though.
What's that?
How would this help leachate?
It not going to help necessarily with the leachate, but their gas collection. This is gonna make their gas collection a lot easier because in their newer phases. They've been using this dirt and that's where they figured out they're starting to have these pockets. So if they can eliminate that dirt, and same thing with them, they're having to import soil in, so they're having to buy soil from outside sources for cover,
How
so
much is
that's what
the,
they're looking at.
what's the cost of the excavator leasing?
I think we're paying,
Today or is it a lot?
right now, we're paying 11
What they're
five,
talking
I
about
believe.
to do the soil data recovery, sitting on the man.
But it's our soul,
So it's 11
we'll have
for
it
people
paid for.
Divided by 11.
Um,
2.5.
So that will
Yeah,
support the new budget, so that- but the cost will go away, but the excavator will not, because it's our sole excavator on the landfill.
So you can't assume that the cost of fuel savings is the full amount. It's gonna be prorated, isn't it?
Well, but you,
Because you'll still be using it.
right, but we're using it for the other projects on the landfill that it already gets used. It will stop utilizing it, well, and this isn't 100% stop. We're still gonna have to do intermediate cover, we're still gonna have to. What he is showing you here is what it costs daily. We're still gonna have to put on intermediate cover, we're still gonna have to put on those days when it's too windy or it's too cold or it's so. I mean, we're not gonna 100% give away all of our machinery and this is gonna take 100%.
Okay, on those days, does your cost go down? Because it's based on a per day? Or how much you use it?
No, it's a pretty much just a flat monthly rate.
And some of that
Okay.
cost is based on product use.
Mhm.
So if we don't use that product 2 or 3 or 4 days out of the month, then that savings calculates out in the product at the end of the year, so.
How much is that the product versus, how much savings would you make because of the product?
Well,
I think
there's a-
that's
it's
gonna
a-
be hard to determine on a,
Well, I don't, there's gotta be a percentage of what you're charging each month that's product.
Yeah, it's all priced into the foam, so the monthly rate that we quoted was 20,500. For 4 totes of foam is what we're anticipating. So they pay that flat 20,500 per month. Plus freight cost to ship the foam to them,
How much is a total of foam?
275 gallons.
How much does it cost?
Oh, so
How much does it cost to,
How, if we were to save money by not using an extra tote, how much is that?
72 cents a gallon. So.
Per pound,
whatever
yeah.
that is per-
so,
per
so
pound,
you pay the 20,500 every month and throughout the year, you're not, if you don't happen to use 4 totes in 1 month, you know, you don't order until,
carry it over.
yeah, you carry it
At the
over.
end of the year, say you're 10 totes because of all these other conditions,
Mhm.
how many dollars is that?
So there'll be a true up, towards the latter half of the year based on, cause there's,
How many pounds is in a tote?
9,000 pound per tote.
well, it's in a 275 gallon, it's about, 2,700
that's the
pounds.
The 9,000 is the 4.
The 4
Oh,
totes together, yeah.
Okay.
So if you take 2,600 and you times that by 72 cents, that tells you how much a tote costs.
I think we figured out what
1872.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what happens, like in your wet season, in your windy season, you may not use it, but there's gonna be a time of the year where you use more than 4 totes, right? So we would have a latter half of the year true up. We owe you, 48 totes in the year. Where are we at? But
If you,
our,
if you owe us 48 totes, that's $100,000. Or no, it wouldn't be that way.
Have to be like $90,000.
Yeah,
and it's
Pretty quick
it's
math.
priced in the phone, but it covers, the equipment. I mean, if we were to outright sell you the equipment. But
we're just
yeah,
trying to figure out how to keep him under control when you do this, because all of our other costs are still gonna,
still,
he's gonna find other ways to spend and
Right.
use the money, and then this will be on top of it.
Guy just beats me out, and he took away my pickup money and now he thinks I ought to give up everything.
I think the real savings is the
there's
20%, yeah, the airspace is the
That's-
20%.
The airspace thing is huge.
I don't think we
and that
can,
price continues to go up.
So
I don't think we can count on a savings in your budget. You're not gonna come to us this year and tell us you need less budget. I think is what we're gonna see.
Probably not gonna tell you that I need less, but there are areas that we've already talked about in.
Now he's really talking, he's just gonna ask for less of an increase.
I just think the ability
You're gonna
to,
speak for yourself, because I'm going after him, to make him accountable.
I think the ability
He
to
knows it.
extend the life of the landfill is the place I see where.
yeah, I mean, the
Okay.
equipment savings that are built in, we're still gonna use the equipment somewhere, so that's still.
It
gonna
is
be a
going to
cost.
though, if you look at the whole picture. It is going to reduce the hours that each of those pieces of machinery are utilized, which in the long run is gonna save us money. Hours on the machinery, repair, I mean, this all calculates out. Because we won't have to replace that machine as often or as quickly, the services are less, the hours are less, so all this stuff calculates out in a savings. And that's why I said it's kind of a complicated spreadsheet, because
255.
until we actually got a
Times
year
11.
into it, we could never really sit down and calculate that, those types of.
$2,800.
And I didn't follow you, we're leasing your equipment that flies the phone.
It's,
It's built
you're
into
not,
the.
yeah, it's
built in
built
price,
into the
right?
price of the
Yeah,
phone,
yeah.
correct?
So, and I think there's still some details we have to work out with the pricing of this and make sure that the pricing is what it is to get us the amount of foam that we would interested in. But I think the concept of this is what we're more in. I'm more interested in making sure that you're on board with this is a
I agree with the
concept.
concept, but I'm happy to hear that you're gonna go more into detail on the actual savings.
Yeah.
Cause you sometimes get into these and then you end up using more foam in your projecting. Or
Well, and there-
you don't reduce the areas which you reasonably could to make it offset. That's what that's what we wanna see.
Right, and we would do a four month, we do a 4 month trial. We're that confident in the solution after 4 months. If it's not working for you, it's not working for us. So there's no, long-term play. We just ask that if we get a machine on order, get it made, that we cover our costs, give it a fair shake.
So would we ever own the machine?
I mean, that's
Not under the current.
not under the
pricing structure.
current pricing model. But to your point to the leachate, I wanted to make sure, Ada County has a pretty bad leachate problem. And, one of our solutions is to treat leachate for water reuse at the landfill. And the foam concentrate requires a water source, so we have a leachate treatment skid at the Ada County landfill that treats the leachate into usable water for the foam. So that's something else that I've talked to about Blair about. They've got a leachate problem. They spend an arm and a leg to take it out and get it treated. There's a huge cost savings that we could do there as well, where they could reuse the water for the foam. They could reuse it for dust application, washing trucks, whatever you need it for the landfill. It's treated down to
You'll approve that?
That's where we're at. I mean, that's why we're not here to present that part of it yet.
Yeah.
Because they've got a skid in California, they've got a skid in Ada
Ada
County.
County.
And we're watching how this all pans out. One of the big sellers with the water treatment thing is the PFAS. And right now, that's a big scare with DEQ. Oh my gosh, the PFAS going into the wastewater treatment facilities and that. So right now, they have 90+% capture on PFAS at the Ada County, with their Ada County skid. So they've taken some samples of our leachate, they've sent that back to a lab. Once they get those, that analysis back, then we'll sit down and figure out what type of treatment. There's 2 or 3 different types of treatment that they have, filters and reverse osmosis and stuff. So once we get that done, Jeremy will be back to try to sell that to you.
You pull it out of the leachate pond and go through filters or whatever up
Yeah.
into your truck. And then from your truck, to use it for the.
Yeah, for,
That's one of the uses.
yeah. And the end goal with the water treatment, the leachate treatment thing is actual stormwater discharge. If we can get it to the point where we can discharge it, then we don't have to haul it to the wastewater treatment facility anymore. So that kind of got, so at the last spring, is when so last spring, when we were in Boise, that's when we really got onto this water treatment, the leachate treatment thing. And so I've been watching, and Jeremy's been nice enough to share that information with me as they get it. So we really have been watching that because of our issues with the leachate thing. So if we could get a skid up there that we could treat all of our leachate that we produce, then we wouldn't be dependent on total dependency on having to go to the.
And you would think that would encourage DEQ to approve it, but boy, it takes a long time.
Does.
And he can elaborate on that. I know they're in the middle of the approval process, I guess. but-
Yeah, and that was actually a request from DEQ when they say, hey, you need a water source, you got a leachate problem, what can be done there? So, but no DEQ is the same. Like Wyoming, we got this approved in like less than a week.
No DEQ in Idaho is the same by region.
Right.
No DQ in Bonneville County is the same, now DQ in other counties within Idaho is not.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Right.
This is one of the best concepts. I think we've heard. Most of it here, you know.
Yeah, I like it. So are we in agreement?
Yes.
So go ahead and pursue.
Exploring.
Come back with more good news.
Okay, you keep the Blair up, but in the meantime,
So what
come
we'll,
back to us.
what we'll do is, I wanna make sure that DEQ is for Bonneville County also going
Yeah.
to buy off on this before we work out some other details with.
And Jeremy's been nice enough to share that information with us, how Ada County approached DEQ and the questions that DEQ had back when they started the pilot project and that, so we're currently looking at all that information and trying to decide how, I guess, how to draft a letter to ask them, but before we approach DEQ, we want to make sure you guys were, this is something you might, I mean, there's still a lot of loose ends we gotta tie up on this, but
Yeah.
it's interesting stuff. Like I said, we went to Utah and watched them do it down there. And the people that were there were very interested and impressed with the way it went down. And so, you know, it's a good product, I think. We are going to have our issues. We're gonna have our cold weather. We're gonna have our windy days.
Yeah. In Cheyenne, what they did, they were super happy with it. They adjusted the dilution ratio to have a little more weight to it when it's super windy, so that really helped out. And, so it's been,
Well, that's another question on the leachate thing. Could you adjust it for more liquid if you need it? You really more, you can leachate.
yep,
Well, just so you understand our relationship. The kid, my favorite kids are the ones I'm the hardest on because I know they've got the potential to succeed.
my oldest son knows exactly what.
You're one of the favorites.
Oh, don't let him kid you. I'm not his favorite.
He knows that.
That's why I had to move over here.
That's
The whip was
right.
coming too
Yeah.
quick over that direction.
Yeah, you didn't wanna get hit with that whip.
That's right.
All right,
No, this
Collateral.
This could change some of the things that we do, and like I said, long-term, we could develop that spreadsheet over a year's time, but the thing that I like about this the most is they're willing to do it on a trial basis, 120 days. And let us really wrap our heads around and get, you know, hands-on and.
so if everything progresses, when do you expect maybe this trial would start? I mean, are
Well,
you looking at
part of that
this summer,
depends
are
on
we 2
DEQ.
years away?
That
Yeah.
depends on DEQ.
Okay,
And I hope it's faster than that with DEQ, but
We feel like we've paved the way with DEQ. We've been intimately involved with them in the process with Ada County. So
Okay.
my last conversation with Matt Peter and Dean Elhart was, I've got other people that are interested. We need this to happen a little bit quicker. And so.
Oh, the naivety of youth.
Yeah.
all right.
We shall see.
Sounds like
I'm not, yeah, that's why I'm not giving you a time frame. I'm a little bit more pessimistic,
You know,
so.
because we already do have a spreadsheet that you can start plugging numbers in on the what ifs on our end.
Yeah.
You know, as far as to adding this cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there are any.
And
offsets.
eliminate some of those other things, so yeah, and we started a new program at the landfill, now I have a gal that's actually running our books, a set of baked books. And so now we're able to
That's a data.
manipulate
I
those.
shouldn't let him talk.
Well, it's a set of
That
books so
snippet
that
will
I
go
know
well
where
on
I'm
CNN.
at as far as.
Yeah.
Go.
Okay.
And so,
A trial, not.
How about he's tracking his costs a
Yes,
little
I'm
bit?
tracking.
per
Proof of
day.
concept.
Yeah. So we can actually start to track some of this stuff and follow it through and be able to produce that spreadsheet that's a little bit harder to just reach out there and grab those numbers.
Okay,
Yeah.
keep moving.
Yeah, great concept.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Okay.
I've got some literature and business cards here if you guys would like.
And thanks for your service, by the way.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. It's a privilege.
Sure. All right, thank you. Lance, where do we go next?
The board orders we have. I have a stack of them here. Now, the board orders, what they are is basically the Bonneville County putting the different utilities on non-notice that we have projects coming that they'll have to move their utilities. These board orders cover 3 different bridges. And so there's about 12 of them here. But it's all the utilities telling them this project is coming. We intend to construct them this fall after water comes out. And let y'all notice to get them moved. So
And these were in our folder. Did you guys look through them? Are you okay at this time?
That's your mayor, we can get those out there.
Okay. I knew this was coming. All right,
For your other set of books.
do you want to go ham and next?
Well, I have one quick thing. So I just want to tell you there is a public open house meeting tonight on our homes in 49th South signal plant operation. It is at Sunnyside Elementary from 4:30 to 6:30. And so I'll be going to that, but the civil engineer will be going to it. And we'll get input from the public. It's been hand advertised to the affected properties and on our Facebook page for a few days now.
That's homes in 49th, so
Homes in 49th, yeah.
It seems like it's getting out, because I saw quite a few reposts of it on Facebook last night of people discussing it, saying, think this will be a really good thing, so.
That's good, because I'm not on Facebook. I don't know what happened with that. So,
There's been a lot of construction going on, activity going on the last 2-3 years between Hammond and Bonneville County and Idle Falls. So there's been a lot of road construction. There's a lot of money come into the pot, in the last couple of years.
yeah.
So, Micah, what do we have from CM? And thank you for being here, by the way.
yeah, good to be here. Thank you, commissioners. I'm always fascinated by how much time you guys spend on the landfill. I was telling Blair and Lance about this, like, it's almost a joke to me now. It's like, okay, what are we gonna talk about the landfill this time? So. anyway,
Maybe Mike,
I'm not here every week.
maybe Mike will
Almost
give you
every
some
week.
of the extra funding.
For the last time.
He's fascinated by it, so maybe you can
Yeah, maybe.
hit him up.
Maybe we're on the same schedule, Blair.
That's-
That might be it.
If it's stuff, if it's talking about a lot of expenditure stuff, then I make Lance come alone.
Yeah.
If it's just minimal stuff or spending money, I'm all, but if Lance has to bring a big bill in too, and why I usually let him hang all by himself.
Well, it's helpful. It really is, because I go back and I tell the mayor and council, I am so grateful we don't manage a landfill, and you guys shouldn't complain about your bills.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I just have 4 items for the commissioners today. First one is our Curlew and John Adams project, which is going on in that area north of Walmart, between First Street and Walmart. And the goal is to have that project complete before we start our First Street construction project. So First Street, we haven't bid that out yet. I don't think you guys.
We haven't gone out, the right of way have all gone out. They've all
Yeah.
started negotiations. We had a price change there. And I think there's some movement happening with that price increase from what you'd originally offered most of your people, so.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and we support that as well, that price increase is reasonable. And we have a couple that we need to wrap up as well. All of our right-of-way acquisitions are in process, but what's holding it up right now, all the rest of them have mortgages. And so the mortgage companies have to sign a partial release to sell off that strip of right-of-way. They've all indicated they would do it. It's just, we're dealing with Wells Fargo and Zions Bank and some of these other lenders, and it has to go through their own process.
And
So we're
that's the
confident.
process that we've used in using a title company as we've kind of turned that negotiation and everything over to the title company and they deal with the banks themselves. So
Which company you guys use?
we've used, I'll let you know. The name of the right now.
We're using Pioneer.
Pioneer, okay, yeah, that is, I think that is who we're using. Curtis Stafford is the agent that we've been mostly dealing with.
That's great. So it's moving forward and the goal is to bid that project out, as soon as we can, as soon as we can. We want to get that done this year. The reason we want to get the Curlew and John Adams project done prior to that is to provide another way around the project for the people, particularly in the tiebreaker subdivision there. The third project that's related to all that is we just awarded the bid on, the John Adams Bridge. And so that's the bridge that will connect that area right behind Walmart again, same area, to Hit Road, running right past the car wash, between the car wash and Romaine's mattress place. We built that interchange out in 2019. And it's functioned really, really well. And so this bridge is just gonna tie that whole area in. Related to that, once that bridge is in and that bid it's signed, they're gonna start construction on that as soon as possible. The last link we have to make is between Midway and Hammond Road. There's a little teeny section of John Adams that runs through that grain field there. And we own the right of way. We've surveyed it, we've got it designed. And so I don't think we're gonna construct that this year. I think we've got enough on our plates right now. But that would be the last connection to run John Adams all the way from Idaho Falls into the county. So,
And then that raceway that you have in that area, would go all the way up and then back down First Street, and those kids would just.
it absolutely would, yeah.
Kid killed the post. Where the kid killed the post,
Yeah.
ran up on the sidewalk.
At least John Adams Parkway has some chicanes almost
Yeah,
in it to slow people down a little bit. John Adams Parkway is not gonna be a straight through road. I mean, there's.
drifting.
that's right.
Yeah, well, that, at least when they're drifting, they're going a little bit slower than,
So it'd be more of a Grand Prix.
yeah.
That's right, for drifting. We are planning on a traffic signal at John Adams and Hammond Road. But that's a ways out. I mean, that's gonna cost quite a bit. But that's probably our next traffic signal after our First Street project, because we're gonna add a traffic signal Curlew to First Street with that project. Any questions on those? Lance?
Good to hear.
You're also got, the 17th Street Bridge. And that's happening probably with LILB and.
Yep.
All,
Yeah, actually, I don't have a data on that yet.
okay,
Yeah, they haven't told us.
so we're trying to give more places to not.
Yeah,
own.
That's perfect.
that's right.
So,
But
First Street.
As soon as I can work from home.
17th and Sand Creek I own our own in Sand Creek, all of these bridges all at one time.
The last item for the commissioners, the city council voted to pursue a temporary 2-year street levy. And that would be $1.5 million per year for 2 years. So $3 million total, and that goes to the voters in May. And so that's $1.5 million. So to give you an idea how much that is, we currently collect about 2.4 million in property taxes. In Hammond, that's across the whole city. So $1.5 million is a good chunk of that. And it would be about $66 per 100,000 assessed value,
To use where?
just within city limits. And it would be for primarily neighborhood roads, collectors, some arterial work, but our arterials are a little bit different animal, but it's primarily to maintain neighborhood and collectors. And then the council identified it for maintenance, mostly maintenance of our roads. But some reconstruction and new construction of those same roads.
What percent does that take to pass a levy like that?
It's a simple majority.
It's a simple.
And that's because it's a temporary levy, it's 2 years. And you have to identify the specific purpose for the levy with those temporary levies.
So you're gonna be showcasing potholes next.
Absolutely. Potholes, chip seal, resurfacing, things like that. Yeah, exactly. And it's gonna be, there are a few areas where we need to reconstruct the streets entirely. Like in the Hillview, Hillsdale neighborhood, those streets have needed replacement for a long time. But mostly it's, maintenance.
When is that? When we go out?
It's in May.
In May, this May, this election.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, the city council has debated this exact temporary levy for, probably longer than I've been there. But we brought it up every year consistently, twice a year for the last 6 years. And when we first brought it up in 2018, it was 800,000. That was the request. We need a temporary levy for 2 years for 800,000. And then as the years have gone on, it's gone up and up and up and up and up. So now we're at 1.5 million. And we feel like we can go on top of things with 1.5 million, but we'll see where we can get in 2 years. We hope it passes.
You had one before? No. It's just been discussed.
It's just gonna discuss it.
I need more money for maintenance on my roads. I have more roads than they do.
We'll get it from where.
He's gonna have a lot of savings.
Yeah.
Any questions for me?
You're following up on the title search on the 45th roadway, I heard.
Yep, yeah, I've got a surveyor on that right now, and I haven't seen a survey yet, but he's surveying that piece, and, for the 17th Street Bridge, there's a small section we need to acquire there that we also have to do a quiet title on.
Oh, okay.
So he's doing both of those for us.
Let me know if let us know if there's anything we can help with on those, so.
Yeah, Scott Hall said as soon as we have the survey done on that 45th Street, then we'll start the quiet title process, but he would like to see the commissioners sign something that say you guys won't protest the quiet title process. Okay, yeah.
And we talked to him more about, starting to think about a joint project to go to the MPO with for, 45th East.
That'd be great.
First Street side to First Street.
Well, I know we've talked about that somewhat, and I also know that the city of Idaho Falls is gonna be pressing hard on the north portion of 15th and that Woodruff corridor north of Highway 26 to Highway 20.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some not necessarily conflicting, but there's priorities and competition.
I thought we were gonna go for another half Panther Ridge.
Yeah, but the competition is only for each year, say chalk them off if you got the next one in the queue.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's an ongoing discussion with BMPO is the $5 million cap in PD is horrible for what it costs for
But
a
it
mile of
would be
road.
really good to have
So,
that kind of joint project in place in case this grant comes around again.
Yeah, it would be.
At the end of this year,
yeah.
state.
And going
gives
from
that
First
money.
Street down to Sunnyside especially.
And have
Yeah.
all of our stuff ready for it,
Yeah,
and a joint one that'd work really well.
well, we could partner on a design. I mean, we could have a design ready to go.
I'll get with Tracy and we can talk about that. I know we've talked about a few other things that we might start design on.
You know, with our First Street project, that we paid for the design out of pocket. And that was a big ask for the city council, but it paid off.
But it paid off, yeah.
And that's why we got that grant. So I think we'd be interested in that. And you're talking from First to Sunnyside or further up?
From First to Sunnyside is, I think, what.
Yeah.
That's your worst.
Further up, or further down.
I meant further down, further south.
Depends on
If you wanna
the
annex
or
the road further
compass.
south, go ahead. Down
I
to
think
where
First
your
to
subdivision
Sunnyside would
comes
be-
out on.
Yeah,
If you're on Sunnyside.
we're not there yet.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's why I asked, cause you go either way.
And Sunnyside
But
further
then
up
it took
too.
compass or your-
That's another story.
Yeah.
cause that's, we're looking at that on some of these corridor preservations and getting the engineering done to have them sitting on the shelf. Not knowing a specific start date or the funding mechanism. But having Iona Road ready, that paid off.
Yeah, I did.
Couple other talked about, I'm done with.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You're welcome to stay.
Do you need me to stay?
No, you're welcome to.
Thanks.
So how much stay a minute longer?
We need to sign together.
Did you have something else, Lance?
One of the issues, and I thought about it, was Rocky Mountain, this is maybe inviting Tim over and have that discussion. I talked to Lance, and we can start the design out on 49th North. Partly because there's other developers coming in right now, so we can at least have the design ready in case we get either that funding or work something out with developers. And then give Rocky Mountain go ahead to move those poles, which will help the school.
Yeah.
And get some surety on it, because you could kind of do it in phases. Not knowing what the developer east of the school is going to do. Although with this change in our policy on the development agreements, these two have been having a discussion. Austin looked at Ammons, which says you build it all before you can get anything, the whole subdivision. Lance felt like that puts an undue burden. So probably the split the baby thing would be instead of, cause like the one development out there that Jarvis has, he's got a bunch of different phases in the back. But you make them do the one up front, which you have a little bit more expense by having them do the arterial first and work back. But not having them do all of the infrastructure for the whole piece, which lets them sell some and phase them in. It's just that, by waiting till the last one, we're finding that people just don't get them done. Yeah. But I'd like to get Tim into here, so, when we have this discussion, we can put it on as an action item to have Lance go ahead and start the engineering for a project out there.
So if we're gonna have Tim here next week, do you want Kayla to have also that discussion on the agenda as an action item?
I think so, yeah.
49th North, yeah, for moving those poles.
Yeah, because that's what we're talking about with these other projects. Is just having the pre-engineering and a project ready and then look for the funding.
Yeah, and with the way we do it, we do allow them to, file a large preliminary plat, but then, divide out their final plats into smaller sections.
So do you?
Yeah, and so they can do like, like you said in Jarvis's example, that he could have that front section as its own final plat, Division 1, and then Division 2, et cetera.
Yeah, but you're requiring them to start at the arterial and go the other way. Okay, that's kind of, we had it. in mind.
I think we could just word it in such a way that you say when Division 1 is constructed, all the arterial improvements and other necessary improvements are included as part of Division 1.
Yeah, because our ordinance,
Cause then it doesn't matter if they put Division 1 at the back like they try to do,
Yeah.
you're the same either way.
yeah, because Austin looked up our ordinance, we don't need to make any changes, it's just the order that they do the development agreement. Okay.
Yeah, we can just make it a requirement in the development agreement, 'cause the subdivision ordinance says that a development agreement's entered into wherein Public Works or the county engineer and the developer essentially come to an agreement about what improvements need to be done as part of the developments.
And put it as special conditions or whatever.
Yeah,
Ideally, with the one that's coming to planning and zoning this week, if all those happen, you've got that full half mile that the majority of it would be built out by the developers, except for the portions that came before we ever required that, which would be the county responsibility.
Mhm.
And Lance said he could engineer those portions and then, communicate with the others to have a project. And hopefully the same company would
Bill, you could coordinate doing the whole thing at once. That's good. And we'll route the traffic down on the new John Adams.
Yeah.
Past there.
You wear out his new road. Break that baby in.
We're just trying to make it so that Austin can't ever get home next time. Anyway, that's, yeah, just, I thought of that with Rocky Mountain. Cause that way Kip could be here and then we could kind of let him know we're going that way. And I don't know if we want to invite the schools into that discussion or not, so that they know what we're thinking. You know,
I think we could,
Yeah.
That's gonna be in the discussion next week.
Are you gonna get a hold of Tim then?
yeah. Hopefully he'll be available, but if not, we can just kind of tell him what we're looking at.
Yeah.
Cause we'll have to get him these for him to do some research on.
And is there anything else?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do you guys have anything else? We
Thank
got-
y'all.
We got members of the public here. Does anybody have anything they needed brought to a road and bridge meeting? Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
We had a couple of questions come up, now the winter's over. How are you set up budget wise? Is there a snow removal budget that if it isn't used, it's carried over to the next year? Or is that money all one pot and is used for something else this year?
It's generally used for something else. It's not, we don't have a set particular thing for mowing.
Well,
I know the city,
I'll
I know the city of Idaho Falls had one like that, you know, when your mom was on the council. And they would carry that over because it was, they used to use a lot of private contractors.
The next mayor planted flowers.
Yeah, we do it all ourselves.
Yeah, we don't have that functionality, so.
Okay.
They transfer that money to the landfill.
And he used to spread dirt around.
See, you know, I do have some input since Blair's here. At the landfill, you know, there's a cost schedule over there. And we as contractors, you know, we understand all that stuff. But these homeowners that bring stuff in all the time, I don't know that they do, but personally, we feel like every pickup that comes into that landfill should be putting in $5. I mean,
Are you
$5 is next to nothing to anybody, but there's a cost out there. And, you know, we're gonna have.
Are you talking the landfill or the hatch pit?
Yeah, I was gonna say, are
Or the
you talking the
transfer
hatch
station.
pit?
Or the
Or
transfer
landfill?
station?
The hatch pit, they do get charged. So every person that goes to that gate does get charged, other than, branches.
Branches and leaves and natural waste doesn't, but
Well, if you're gonna increase anything, I think that would be a way to do it, and I think people need to learn that they need to contribute to the county that they own. Are we taking waste from other counties?
You know, since, Commissioner Christensen raised the out-of-county rate, we haven't taken much, so.
If they do, they use the plate to make the delivery.
He encourages it, so I have no apologies for giving him.
We raised that out of,
Yes.
we raised that out of county fee significantly.
Good.
And
Two
it
years
did
ago.
push probably, I would estimate it probably pushed 90% of the out-of-county away.
Good.
So,
We had to, because we were running out of room there.
and it has definitely prolonged us having to move somewhere.
Yeah,
Because we had estimated before they upped that we would be out of the hatch pit in 5 years. And that was 2 years, two years ago, and we still have probably at least 4 or 5 more years.
good.
When I took office, the city told those, houses built on Favero that there would be a park there in 2 years. So they've done a real good job of extending the life. of that.
Yeah, and that part of it, by raising that out-of-county fee and pushing those people away, have saved us a ton of airspace.
Yeah.
But we
Well,
could,
appreciate the staff at the transfer station and the hatch pit, and what we know they do a great job.
we could, do a pilot project with your homeowners association to, double the fee and see if that diverts any.
You could do a pilot project.
You could do something.
All right, Austin, did you have anything?
No.
All right, we'll close our road and bridge then.